you're most welcome to join. Yeah, I'll use you, but feel free to keep the mask on because we'll probably get mixed up on it. Feel free to just... yeah, and then I'll probably... Yeah. Yeah, you can cover it. It turns into a spectator sport sometimes. All right, who wants to kick off? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that up front, no problem.
The last farm, it might be a question for them. The last farm, and it's a different kind of farm. Is it a 5-star farm? Can you tell us a little bit about what the situation looks like there?
We currently have one farm that continues to be infected with M. bovis. MPI and the team have worked very closely with that farm to work on the plan to ensure that M. bovis is eradicated there as well. Because it's a receiver farm, it's an endpoint for a number of feeder farms in the area. It made sense to work on a long-term plan that ensured they weren't eradicating on that farm while still receiving infected stock. So that's why it's a more of a longer-term plan for the eradication on that site.
We understand it's going to stretch out to summer. Are you able to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll give a really brief and then I'll let the Minister speak to it. Look, ultimately, when MPI works through with an individual farm and farmers where there is M. bovis present, they take a really pragmatic approach, making sure that the plan ensures you won't see reinfection, but also trying to sequence the eradication with what makes sense in terms of the culling schedule that that farm might already have. And so in terms of this particular farm, it makes sense for that plan to extend into summer.
And obviously the period over summer offers the greatest potential for it to be cleared. A lot of animals on the place, so through summer the temperatures will be great. That means that the bacteria will be killed. So it works for all parties.
Is it how many animals on the farm?
We're talking thousands, up to about 9,000 animals that might be culled. And so we've been working through, obviously a big operation, it's important to get it right. But as the Prime Minister said, there was no point in cleaning up that farm if there was the possibility of infected animals coming back, reinfecting, and us having to repeat this. It's an expensive operation, but one we're working through very carefully.
A celebration today on this issue, and then that farm, that poor farm, is the last one standing almost. You must have a little bit of aroha for them.
Oh, so this is a milestone, but not the end point for M. bovis. We do expect to see reinfection. We do expect the really extensive surveillance regime to show that we have other sites of interest. But what we're marking here today is just how much progress has been made out of what is actually a relatively short period of time. This is a 10-year program, and at year 4, we've shown considerable progress. What I would say to any farm that has been impacted by M. bovis is just a huge thank you on behalf of the country. They have had to make huge sacrifices. They have lost entire herds. I cannot imagine what that experience would have been like for those farmers. It's deeply personal. But they have made a sacrifice on behalf of New Zealand and our primary sector, and it is greatly appreciated.
Just on that trauma, last year the Otago University came out with a report saying that the eradication program has had significant lasting trauma for farmers. Has it been worth it?
You know, when we look at the fact that M. bovis, had it been able to take hold in New Zealand, would have a lasting and devastating impact on farms, farmers, animal welfare, and ultimately our economy. The sacrifice has been great for the very small percentage of farmers that have had to cull their herds as part of this program. But on behalf of the rest of the country, they've made a sacrifice that does mean that many others will not experience the same pain that they have.
Not only an emotional cost here, but also in terms of the price tag. How much has the program cost to date, and also in terms of the compensation that has been paid out to farmers?
So all up, we've seen over 600 million spent on the program roughly. And my recollection is about 200 million has gone towards the compensation at this point. The rest is the extensive operational costs. Part of that operational cost has actually been welfare support, because as you pointed out, the impact of this program on the well-being of the farmers and communities that it's impacted has been significant. So what's unique about this program is it has sought to provide that extra support. Had we not, though, chosen as government, but alongside industry and together with our primary sector, to undertake this program of eradication, the cost to the economy and the primary sector would have been in the billions.
the cash that's been announced today, the pre-budget announcement, can you tell how will that go towards protecting against M. bovis? You said that infections will happen again, Prime Minister, but what will the cash be spent on?
Yeah, we are 4 years into a 10-year program, so we do expect we'll continue to see cases arise, but the surveillance program, the ongoing surveillance program, is what we're continuing to invest in. We're doing a lot of screening to find very few cases, but that's a really important part of the ongoing program. But what we've also announced today is extra biosecurity funding to ensure that across our primary sector, including, for instance, aquaculture, that we have the measures in place to stop seeing the biosecurity incursions that can cost us as our economy millions of dollars.
Look, some of that money will go to the development of a national pest management plan. We have one for bovine tuberculosis, we have one for PSA and kiwi fruit, and so this will be one for M. bovis, and it will be the ongoing plan and program of monitoring, intervention where necessary, to make sure that wherever M. bovis pops up, and it might into the future, that we can get on top of that and eradicate it and actually show and prove that we are bovis free.
Yeah. For the Minister? Yep.
Yeah, given that 4 or 5 years ago there was sort of lots of question marks about how the incursion initially occurred, whether it was infected semen or machinery or whatever, what steps and what practical measures are you looking at going forward to keep it out of the country as such?
Look, we've just got to boost the system all the way through to offshore intelligence, giving us an indication of what threats are out there. The pathways, better pathway management that we're doing, better border protection, which is what the $40 million will contribute to. So every part of the biosecurity system, including New Zealanders watching out, whether they be in primary sectors or they be in their home garden, watching out for unusual things that they might think is an incursion. We need a team of 5 million people working on biosecurity.
Can you just ask Ray a question?
Sure you can.
Ray, you've named...
Feel free to come and stay a while, Ray.
Ray, you've named the farm before. Can you tell us anything more about the operation of that farm, where it might...
Sure,
no. Tracking back where the infection may have arisen, or...?
Well, the remaining property is the ANZCO-run 5-star feedlot in Ashburton. It's a very large animal aggregation property, as the Prime Minister outlined. So around about 400 farms supply that property. It's not that the farms that are supplying that feedlot anymore are infected themselves. It's that the infection has been in the feedlot pretty much all the way through the program. And because there are thousands and thousands of animals there, it's almost impossible to remove it until you clean out the entire feedlot and move all of the animals out, leave the paddocks fallow, and then restock it. And so it's not that bovis is coming in, it's that it was already there. And because it spreads very easily from animals nose-to-nose touching, or it might be effluent moving around in the premises, we have to clean the whole thing out. So it's been left to last, because all of those animals go from the feedlot to the freezing works, and then obviously it's to a big overseas market.
Just a question for the Minister.
Oh,
okay.
sure. Please, please.
Can you just talk about now the transition to this new agency under the new pest management plan? What is that going to entail in terms of surveillance testing for M. bovis?
Look, those are the things to be worked through consultation over the National Pest Management Plan. And Osprey has been identified. It's an agency that deals with bovine tuberculosis. It has expertise, it has networks. So we think that they will be the best. It's not been finalised, but they were likely to be the best agency. We will work with Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ and Federated Farmers to ensure that what we do put in place is supported by everyone across the sector. So a lot of things to be finalised. That's a process for later on this year.
Shows the transition we're making, though. Yep.
Well,
Okay. Other issues? Yeah, go
do you
ahead.
have confidence in Tribunella as Speaker?
Oh, look, yes, I do. The experience that Parliament has and ultimately coming to an outcome where we try and prevent it occurring in the future.
Do you think he made a mistake about issuing this trespass notice?
Look, as he will have pointed out yesterday, there were two issues to work through. Basically, do you treat all present in the same way, or how do you also make sure that the response is proportionate? And you can see that he's taken action to try and ensure it's been proportionate.
Are you comfortable with the forthcoming parliamentary delegation going to Europe, which he's leading along with the Duke of Collins?
Yeah, let me, again, just for a little context, I mean, the issue of speakers' tours, as they're called, they have existed for decades. They've been around for a very long time. Both parties have always been present in government when speakers have led such missions. I think what's unique now is that the tour that the Speaker is looking to take is into Europe, at a time when our connections with that part of the world are critical, when the geostrategic issues are particularly heightened, and when New Zealand is currently working through an FTA agreement with Europe. In my mind, there should not be politics in our work towards that agreement. It is in the best interest of all New Zealanders and all parties that we successfully conclude that negotiation. And so anything that other parties are willing to do to be a part of a delegation that is pushing that important agreement, I would welcome.
So you don't,
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't think that the public might see it as a bit of a jinker?
Well, certainly, as I say, there are two really critical issues within that region at present for New Zealand. And in my mind, all MPs and all parties have a role to play in serving New Zealand's interests abroad, particularly within the EU, as we push for our EU free trade agreement.
What do you think the public think of Trevor Mallard?
You would need to ask the public. I mean, I guess the point I'd make is, again, that I am a leader of a political party that engages with the Speaker in a different way. But from where I sit, what we've had in Parliament are really challenging times. What I'd rather see is actually, as political parties, us coming together in the aftermath of the occupation at Parliament to work through the solutions for the future that ensure that we don't have an issue like that again, rather than taking pot shots with no confidence statements.
Does he lose the plot sometimes? Does he have brain explosion? I mean, you're sort of his boss. Does he,
Well,
does he
actually,
lose the plot?
just on the point that you've made there, the Speaker has an incredibly important role as Parliament's person. He sits there on behalf of all parliamentarians. And that's an incredibly important role, but again, all party leaders therefore should be engaging with the Speaker on working together on how we can ensure that Parliament remains the people's place. That was challenged recently in a way we haven't seen before, so for me that's a reason to come together.
Does he lose the plot?
Oh,
Does
no.
he have brain explosion?
Look, you know,
Look at the music, you look at the sprinklers.
I've been around.
Does he have good behaviour?
I've been around Parliament and politics for a long time. I cannot name a time when opposition parties haven't had a go at the Speaker.
Just on crime, Prime Minister, there are increasing concerns around rising crime. Do you still have confidence in the Police Minister?
Absolutely. Look, two things I'd say. On the issue, for instance, of youth offending, what we've actually seen over the past few years is a decrease in the number of young people who are coming before the youth court, and we've also seen a decrease in the amount of repeat offending. Now, we have, however, seen a spike in particular activity like ram raids. Now, that is a reason for us to keep investing in frontline police. We have the highest number of police officers that we've had in New Zealand, and we've been very deliberate about increasing their numbers, an extra 1,400. The police have recently also announced a particular focus with a retail unit. These are the kinds of things they can do because we have explicitly invested in the police to increase their numbers.
Is the Police Minister doing enough in this area?
Again, I would point to the facts here that this is a police minister that has overseen a significant increase in the number of police. At the same time, you've seen strong operational responses to, for instance, gang activity, hundreds of arrests related to gang activity, seizures of vehicles, and also significant drug seizures. That is all because we've made an investment as a government that has allowed the police to undertake that activity because they have more people. Anything else? All right, we might finish up then. Thank you.
Got the phone for everyone else?